A small P-26-40 medium tank is trying to engage two Shermans coming around the ridge. This actually is happening way on the other side of the map, like kilometers away from my troops, but I did catch it, as I really thought this was an interesting little fight. Don't really give this guy a big chance, but it is a 2v1, and he's outgunned. The Shermans definitely, though outclassed by Panthers and Tigers, easily outclass most, if not all, of the armor any of the Italian units can bring to the battlefield. Alright, howdy folks, welcome back to Steel Division 2. A while back I made a Steel Division 2 video in which I played a battle and then went into the replay to get a more cinematic, on the ground perspective, and that's what we're doing today as we're looking at their latest DLC called Tribute to the Liberation of Italy, adding 4 new Axis and 4 new Allied divisions. On the Axis side, new divisions are the 5th Gebirgsjaeger, which are mountain troops. We have the Italian and German mixed 4th Fallschirmjaeger, which is what I'm playing as today. We have the 26th Panzer Division, and also an Italian loyal to the Axis division, the 4th Alpini, which I believe are also mountain troops. On the Allied side, we have new nations. Besides, I guess, just new divisions, we have new nations. South Africa and Brazil, with the 6th South African Armored Division to the Allied Italians, the Liberation Division. We have the 8th Indian Division and the American Task Force 45, which has both Japanese-American troops and Brazilian soldiers. So we're actually playing on their Tannenberg map, which is huge. It's technically a 10v10 map, though I did up the points available to the players and the AI. So technically there's only 4 of us on the map, but this is a 10v10 map, and I've actually never played on this map before, but it is absolutely huge. If I turn on the HUD, you can see just how I can even get the entire map into view. There's a lot of action going on. I'm going to be focusing mostly on my side, which is here on the right, just because I knew what was happening over there, but just to keep that in mind. So here we have the M4275, a little Italian-based 75mm tank destroyer. Though obviously it doesn't have a turret, does give it a slight disadvantage. I think it's very equivalent to German Sturmgeschütz, though it's a little cheaper actually. I believe it only about 40 points, and currently it is engaging the early vanguard of the Allied troops coming into its range. As I was showing off during the intro, in Phase A, and not in Phase B or C, you're going to get a single Elefant super heavy tank destroyer in this division. There's one, it just comes at the lowest veterancy, and it's interesting that you can actually call this in Phase A. This division also has access to Tigers and Panthers, mixed with some Italian Sturmgeschütz like the Stug M42 I just showed you. It also has 105mm more SPG versions like the Stu 42, but the Italian version, even Brummbaers with their 150mm Howitzer. This division is really for pushing hard with your heavy tank destroyers or assault guns, and then utilizing especially the Italian paratrooper assault infantry with tons of SMGs when you have secured a opening in the enemy lines. Here we see one of our friendly M42 Sturmgeschützes coming face to face with an enemy Sherman at a very close range. These tanks are small, they're cheap, they're not very good, but at short range versus a Sherman, their 75mm is as good as anything else. However, it's going to come down to who gets the deciding shot first, and here it seems to be the Sherman who knocks out the M42. My Elefant in the middle has actually been constantly firing. It's been out of HE since the beginning of the battle. I didn't get ammo trucks until Phase C, so my Elefant was actually a little bit pulled back just so it wouldn't run completely out of ammo, as it had been blasting shots downrange at Shermans, all sorts of trucks, vehicles, even some anti-aircraft units. A variant of the Z1007 heavy bomber, this one equipped with 18 100 kilogram bombs, is on the way. There's also a variant that I deployed later on, with a single 800 kilogram bomb and multiple 100 kilogram bombs on the side. This one is actually not mine, it's one of my AIs. It's the first one I saw come out, and it is actually a very interesting bomber because you can hit that SM-79 front and nose with a damn decent bomb load, and I think you could actually get up to 6 of these in Phase C if you went for ones without a lot of veterancy. Phase A also sees the 4th Fallschirmjaeger to allow themselves to deploy a Panther Führer, basically a command Panther tank. If you're not very familiar with the vision, these command units have a little aura or a circle around them, much like the generals, for example, in Total War games. And every unit inside of the aura within the command unit, whether it's a Tiger or a tank or an infantry unit, they will get a veterancy star, which gives them a little bit better accuracy, faster fire rate, less prone to suppression. But having only a single command Panther, I figured it was a good idea to put this near my Elefant, giving my Elefant a little bit of a firepower and accuracy buff, but also just because the Panther was going to be able to help the Elefant in case it got overwhelmed, especially, obviously the Panther has a turret, the Elefant does not, and I figured the two tanks together could probably set a decent lineup. You can see the Elefant there in the background, a decent line to hold any allied advance here on the right side. Here we see an Italian plane now in the service of the Italian units allied with the Allies. As you can see here by the markings, the German allied Italians have a different marking system, and that one seems to be going straight down and flying over my anti-aircraft facilities. And speaking about the Devil, here we have the German allied version of the same fighter. Different markings, looks a bit different. I believe it has the exact same weaponry and everything. It's just in the service of the Italians that are supporting the Axis. So it's interesting to see that these fighters, identical, can and will fight against each other. And then at that point, it comes down to a little bit of luck and also a little bit of how high of a veterancy that you pick and who went after who first. You can see this one actually took quite a beating, did knock out one of the enemy fighters, but now it's going back to base to repair and rearm. Wary of enemy bombers or fighter bombers attacking my Elefant and Panther out in the open, I figured I would bring up some of these NAG or NAG 4500s. They carry a 37mm autocannon in the back, and they have a little bit of armor plating, as you can see. Kind of reminds me actually of the Panzerwerfer rocket artillery truck, but instead of a rocket launcher, comes with a 37mm autocannon. The guy in the back isn't very well protected, so I did keep this a little bit behind my Panther and Elefant. You can actually see the Panther right there and the Elefant just in front of him over there. This way, if I move the anti-aircraft truck in the range of the Panther is giving both the Elefant and the anti-aircraft truck a little bit of veterancy for being inside of his zone. Here we see the Lince 202, a tiny little Italian car. However, this one is actually carrying my overall battlefield commander. Now, leaders, like the Panther, give upgrades to units within their circle. Now, this guy is technically the leader of the leaders. Every leader on the map within certain range will get a buff, which in turn gives the units under those leaders' commands a buff too. These are usually very small, very fragile units with, this is a tiny little armored car. They come as well as tiny command retinues with a couple of soldiers, or sometimes larger tanks that aren't armed with a gun, but instead with a radio set in the turret. This one obviously Italian. We want to make it sure that it stays behind the front lines, though still providing the radio range to its leadership in the area. Here we have a BF-110 with 20 and 30mm nose cannons, as well as 4 210mm air-to-ground rockets. Currently I'm trying to intercept an enemy bomber, but I'm also trying to get a rocket run on any units down below. Now these rockets, I believe, were actually meant to initially be fired towards enemy bombers like the B-17s or B-24s flying over Germany, but in the attack role, as in air-to-ground attack roll, they are relatively effective, though in the replay they seem to be bugging out a little bit, flying halfway under the aircraft. But they can be very effective against grinding just because of their super big size of 210 millimeters. A small P-26-40 medium tank is trying to engage two Shermans coming around the ridge. This actually is happening way on the other side of the map, like kilometers away from my troops, but I did catch it, as I really thought this was an interesting little fight. Don't really give this guy a big chance, but it is a 2v1, and he's outgunned, and as I say that, the crew inside I don't think are going to be able to make it home that day. The Shermans definitely, though outclassed by Panthers and Tigers, easily outclass most, if not all, of the armor any of the Italian units can bring to the battlefield. This Firefly is in a direct confrontation front to front with my Elefant. Actually, had already been shot at by my Panther, but then moved out of view. And obviously, a Firefly versus an Elefant is going to be a hard nut to crack for the Firefly, even at close range. So this unit gets access to Panthers and Tigers besides the Command Panther. So currently I moved up 2 Panthers on my far left flank to try and secure the area where the Allied armor kept coming from. They have Fireflies, Sherman command tanks, all sorts of different armor pieces on the left side. I just needed to secure this open field to try and get my infantry across. You can actually see one of them moving around in the Kubelwagen over there. A Fallschirmjaeger recon squad is heading up towards the Panthers. We can see different Fallschirmjaeger elements moving in the field back in the background. These guys are going to try and get in front of the Panthers, as they do have better sight lines, although I should probably say Panther, as one of them has just been knocked out by enemy fire. So you can see this Panther is still going, though. Our infantry are just trying to get in front of it to get eyes on the situation. As mentioned earlier, this division also comes with Sturmpanzer IVs, or Brummbaers as they are also known. It's a 150mm howitzer in a heavily reinforced Panzer IV, obviously without a turret to accommodate for the heavier gun, but this thing is absolutely very capable of destroying enemy positions. Now the Italians in this division also come with a sort of similar unit to this. Instead of a 150, it carries the 105mm howitzer, just like the Stu-42. This division also comes with some super heavy artillery. Here we have 2 in the form of K-18 172.5mm howitzers. I'm not sure if the .5 was really necessary to add. I mean, these guns are already absolutely huge. The downside is once you disembark them from their trucks, they are obviously very slow to reposition, but their 172mm goodness does make up for that. Across the map, we have both Gebirgsjaeger Pioneer and regular Gebirgsjaeger infantry, as they are pushing into a very heavy forest fight. Interestingly enough, the Gebirgsjaeger Pioneers have a jerry can bomb. I'm not sure if it is what I think it is. It sounds like they're just putting a flame inside of a large can of fuel, but they are heading into the forest to go kick some ass. I think the downside of Steel Division's infantry is that it's very hard to see what's going on with them once they are either inside of a city block or inside of a forest, just because it gets really a little bit detailed in there and it becomes a little glitchy. We can see this guy's just got ambushed by an anti-aircraft truck, and they are taking quite a few of heavy losses. So that truck just seems to be knocked out in a very lucky maneuver, so that they can at least continue their advance across the field into the forest. With my Panther and Elefant pushing up very hard, they are running low on ammo constantly. Now the AI was nice enough to send me a little transport truck, though it was mostly out of ammo. It looks like this thing is legit from World War I. They were sending me ammo trucks to keep my ammo flowing, to keep the front line being pushed forward. Here's one of my 4 Tigers I could call in Phase C. I went for Phase C Tigers at 1 veterancy just because I figured if I do need any heavy tanks, I might as well get them at a higher veterancy. Now the Tiger is actually very capable here against these divisions that aren't equipped with the heaviest of tanks other than I believe the South Africans, who do have a bunch of Fireflies, but the Tiger is very capable of making a very short work of infantry as well as Stuarts and regular Shermans all day long. I'm not going to act like I know how to pronounce this, but they are Italian paratroopers. This is more of a pioneer section with rifles, a few SMGs, and Gebalteladungen or bundled grenades. There's also a full assault section just with SMGs and grenades. And it always very surprised me to see how the Italian paratroopers in World War II were almost ahead of their time. Just like the Germans, they had a camouflage and a very interesting setup on their helmets and vests. And I've always liked the look of these. They did come a little bit too late. I had actually put a lot of my Italian paratroopers into Phase C, but they did support the Tiger here on the middle left side as they were following the Tiger on the left through the tree lines to make sure it was clear. And that concludes this fight. It does say minor defeat because we were spectating the wrong side. As you can see, we did win with 4,500 kills and 1,000 losses. It's a shame that in Steel Division, spectating infantry is just very hard, especially when most of the fighting in this game takes place in forests that are very hard to get into, or just in cities where it's one house shooting at another house without any infantry visible. Hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Tribute to the Liberation of Italy DLC for Steel Division 2. I'll be doing more of these because they are very fun and interesting to do, and just give a different perspective on Steel Division 2 all from the ground, whereas otherwise, if you're doing a live video, there's a lot more micro needed, and you can't get as low to the ground as you can in these replays. Hope you guys enjoyed. Love to see you in the next one.